gentlemen, we're here once again at the Charlotte Major, getting ready to hop into our next matchup here between Team oNe and the Direwolves. Direwolves so far having a rough go of it at the Major, despite being here in Team oNe. But Mexico City still faring well here, currently in second place in the group, behind Oxygen, looking to really lock that in now through this matchup. As we take one quick look at the standings, where you can see Oxygen already locked in, secured. They're going through. There's no stopping that at this point as far as I'm aware. And for Team oNe, currently in second, but with only 3 points. One single match here from the Direwolves could change up their fate, and better yet, the Direwolves have another match after this as well.
Yes, indeed. Could tie it up in the points with this match, like you were talking about, John, and then proceed later on today to potentially make it to the playoff stage still, even though they're going into the last day of group stage with 0 points. And obviously, it's a little bit of a caveat with Elevate not being here. Very unfortunate circumstances on that end, but fortunately enough, we have a pretty interesting matchup between Team oNe and the Direwolves.
Definitely going to be the case, but we do have to look at the previous result between these two teams on the first day of play to start talking about how this matchup may potentially go. And it's a bit drastic at the moment for the Direwolves here. Only 2 rounds being picked up versus Team oNe when they played against them previously here. So a massive amount of improvement is going to be needed to be made within the individual stat department and the strategy department here. The only player that was really able to show up inside of the previous matchup versus Team oNe was Pecan, having a relatively positive ratio, but everybody else failing to impact. And we talked about the reasons why. Part of it being these kind of weird role swaps we tend to get, even mid-game from the Direwolves here, that can obviously help them. It adds a lot of versatility to the team to be able to swap these roles out if a player is not necessarily performing up to par, but it also adds, I think, a little bit of extra complication into the comms, and just it makes things a bit more confusing to try and shuffle together a strategy.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, for Direwolves, it's definitely been the struggle bus for them so far, so hopefully they can try and bounce back today, because the stats have definitely not been there for them. Even with Pecan having a couple of good performances, he's still at a .99 for this LAN, so trying to build things up to a better point, and hopefully it starts here on Border.
In fact, this is going to be the complete rerun, if I remember correctly. This is the map they played in the previous matchup as well. So we're just going to be heading right back into that one. Direwolves just want to rerun it the same way they did on the previous matchup. We'll have to see if they will have learned their lesson, if they will once again be able to approach things with the proper strategy to knock out Team oNe. But at the same time, as we saw from Team oNe, not really giving a whole lot of respect over to the Direwolves, especially on their own defensive side inside of that one, really getting into their faces, denying a lot of those entries and whatnot, and making things difficult, especially for players like Jackie Wu, who's often put into that first frag position, but was having mixed results in that game, and I believe the others as well.
Yeah, it was very, very harsh for them. Only able to pick up 1 defensive and 1 offensive round for that Border, ending in a 7-2 fashion. Dash for Team oNe at a 2.20. 17-4 on the game. Dots at 12-6 with a 1.46. Pecan was the only saving grace for Direwolves in this situation. 12-8 with a 1.41, and it falls off a cliff with Souffle in second with a 0.61 with only 3 kills. So Border really not working out for Direwolves the first time around, so hopefully the rerun has something to show us.
We'll have to see if that is going to be the case. We have all 10 players in the server, ladies and gentlemen, so it shouldn't be too far away from starting things out here. First, Team oNe is concerned. Not a whole lot to worry about here, especially since they are going back to the previous map. Everybody played fairly well inside of that previous matchup, so I would expect the same results to come out from them. They're probably not going to be too worried about this, but they do have to keep themselves on a good straight here because of the still relatively close scoreline they have versus the Direwolves at the moment. Only 3 points on the board, just like we talked about at the beginning of the segment. If Direwolves take this match inside of regulation, they are immediately tied based on round differential, and Direwolves has a chance to get those 3 extra points with their upcoming match as well.
Yeah, but the other thing is that Team oNe can also pull even farther ahead here. In that 6-point category, make it nigh impossible for the Direwolves to make it to the playoffs. So this match actually has a lot of different things going on for it. The fate of quite a few of these members hanging in the balance at the moment.
Could potentially just outright decide, I think, in this matchup whether the Direwolves are going to have playoff contention or not, and that would also more than likely lock in things for Team oNe, depending on how many matches we have remaining in this group. And I think there's just the one left after this one that Direwolves have to play into, if I remember correctly.
Yes, indeed. So the Direwolves have 2 matches today, the first one being up against Team oNe, and the other one being up against Oxygen. In order to make it to playoffs, folks, they would have to either win both of these inside of OT or take them inside of regulation without Team oNe gaining any extra points. So the big thing right now is that Direwolves has to get one over on Team oNe. Otherwise, the game up against Oxygen simply doesn't matter later today.
All right, well, let's see if they can get it done. It's do or die time now for the Direwolves as we get ready to head into the final matchups now of this group. We'll see if Team 1 can lock in their second place position or if the Direwolves will be able to open up a chance to steal it away from them. It's on Border, and we go live right now with the first ban coming in from the Direwolves.
Let's get it on, ladies and gentlemen. Direwolves will be getting rid of Ying as they will be taking the defensive standpoint initially. The good luck, have fun's ring out in the chat, and Team 1 will now be removing our next offender. Thinking about it for a little bit, Border does indeed have quite a claustrophobic play style, so they might be trying to remove something of the utmost importance to the offense. Just really thinking on this one here for a time, John. And drumroll please, Thermite.
Interesting bans on the attacking side here. Not necessarily what you would tend to expect, especially in the recent meta here. The Ying one is the one that really sticks out to me. Even in the previous matchup, we didn't really see a whole lot of usage of Ying inside of that game. So I'm wondering where that's coming from for the Direwolves, if they're expecting to potentially see it from Team 1.
Actually, Dots was the one that used Ying the most in that last matchup.
Oh,
it was
okay.
his most played offensive operator, so more than likely a good choice just because those Candelas are really annoying. And as you said, more than likely a target ban. Thermite just being for the massive hole that he makes with his hard breach. You don't want to allow him access to things like box wall or anything like that where he can quickly blow that wall open and have the entire site flooded with the offensive unit very quickly. Valkyrie's going to follow suit as well as Kaid. The Kaid a little out there in the ether because Thatcher's still up, so you didn't necessarily have to go for it, but it's still a strong idea here on Border. He locks up a lot of walls in really finicky ways.
Yeah, I think that's still a smart play to ban Kaid out here, though, just because, again, teams are used to not generally bringing the Thatcher into play at this point, and by banning him out, that's the operator that the defense would bring that would more than likely prompt a Thatcher to take up a slot on the attacking roster. So maybe they're feeling that, okay, we don't want to force ourselves into a position where we need to bring Thatcher, so let's just try and ban out this instead so we can make sure that we don't really have anything on the field that would necessitate bringing him.
Absolutely. I completely agree with you on that front. You know, Thatcher's an operator that we don't get to see too often anymore, given his ban rate. I mean, here at this LAN, let me pull it up for you guys here for just a second. I believe yesterday he was at over an 80% ban rate, but I want to check with what's been going on here today. But either way, Thatcher's just one of those ops that people haven't had enough time with recently, so they don't really feel comfortable playing around him. They're so used to doing things in other ways that they'd much rather just hinder the defense and move on the offense. I mean, even as of right now with Team 1, there's no Thatcher here because they don't really need it. They're just going to move forward and go about things in a regular fashion. And actually, as soon as I say that, the caster's curse will work on myself this time around. Dots will actually pick up the Thatcher instead of the Sophia.
Yeah, Dots actually going to swap over towards that, and more interesting repick there for Dash as well, or at least it was going to be one. Had a Nook locked in initially, but has since gone away from that. Is going to be sticking with his initial choice on the Yana.
Okay, so I got that Thatcher ban rate as updated currently. It's 63% with a pick rate of 8.2 when he is available. Most picked operator at the current moment is Finka, wouldn't you know, at a 79%, or rather 75% pick rate and a 13% ban rate. So starting to move up there for Finka as well. We've seen some other unique operator bans across the board here as well. Seen some Habana bans and some other things come through, but those are a little bit more regular. But past that, in the match now, as we're about 30 seconds in, Souffle will be holding things down inside of Breg. Dash moving in quickly through Tellers. Has a lot of information here, more than likely, off of these drones, and yes, indeed, he does. Knows that custom is clear and start working his way in towards jungle.
Dash is going to do a bit of a self-drone to get himself to move forward here a bit. As he swings around here, we'll also open up some room for his teammates on the other side to play into this a little bit more as well. Want to make sure that there's nothing roaming, specifically over on the ventilation side, they may have to worry about before committing themselves to the clear. Dash maybe still trying to line up nades from down below as well, and wanting to check for security here also gives room for Dots to now move in through Tellers without too much of an issue.
This is a very sneaky unit here for Team 1 at the current moment. Have complete square control, but obviously the site's going to be upstairs. An enemy detected outside for just a split second, but nothing that they can really collapse on or capitalize on at the current moment. Well, trying to gather control of top east, just making sure to work all levels of the map at the current moment, making sure that Direwolves can't sneak in below them and try and grasp a hold of some kills. Souffle will be holding things down still inside of Break. He's got a nice cross here, but they do believe Mira, well, actually no, it's going to be the hand of Souffle that actually punched those out. Just kind of looks like a mirror window with the way that he actually ended up setting it up. But either way, Team 1 finally starting to wrap around this site, and they've done it in such beautiful fashion. Dash, what a kill! He'll add the frag grenade to the pile though, and Souffle will more than likely go down to that, but it goes off and doesn't claim the life. Instead, it's the rest of Team 1 to hop 2 and claim 2 more. ED, though, will move in and try and save his friend.
Should be able to do so. I don't believe that they're going to be able to immediately lock down upon this, as Team 1 has other things to worry about, like getting this case down onto the ground. They've got Overwatch on this round, but it won't matter. Souffle, despite the low HP, is able to get a headshot going on the Mark 14 and knock out Dots, evening out the numbers into a 2v2, and now making this round a heck of a lot more palatable for the Dire Wolves, and even more so now with Souffle picking up that frag. More damage going out on to Maya. He's going to try to hold on to this. Has an Adrenal Surge available to boost the HP, but is too preoccupied with the fight. Regardless, though, he's not going to be able to maintain in the 1v2. Dire Wolves pull off the retake at the bitter end of the round, and they pick up the opener.
So very unfortunate for Team One, and especially for Dash in that situation. I mean, he got so much done there, but just sticks around too long at the top of Metal. And that's the thing about Border, is it's very tight-knit. There's going to be a lot of people around you at all times, probably somebody that can capitalize on that position if you do stick there for a little while. So that ends up what's going down here, and Dire Wolves end up picking up the round. They're going to head towards Ventilation and Workshop for the very next one, and Team One are going to have to rethink their offensive strategy, just overselling there by a little bit.
Dire Wolves, regardless, are going to be pumped about that one, especially with the recovery going all the way down to a 2 versus 3. Technically a 1 versus 3 as they had a player downed as well, but thankfully player knocked out in a relatively easy to recover position, so they were able to get him back up. And as well, Team One just not locking down those two players. Pretty sure they were aware of them both being on the inside of break room too, so should have had some indication as to how to deal with that. You could tell that by the kind of pre-fire they had lined up in the 90 hallway, but still things went awry immediately from that point forward. Dire Wolves allowing their players to swing back out, or rather Team One allowing the Dire Wolves players to swing back out and then bringing things down to a 2v2, and it just really continued to devolve from that point forward as Dire Wolves handled it beautifully.
Yeah, super unfortunate situation there for Maya. You thought he had it, but simply couldn't get one over on the Frost, and now Dire Wolves pull ahead here. One of the 2 rounds they claimed the last time they're here on Border, and hopefully they can continue on this defensive end. ED will be looking for a kill early for Valley Spawn. This will be sitting inside of Passport. This is a pretty plain Jane one on Border. This has been around for quite some time, but still to this day can capture a few bodies early if someone is not paying attention. Souffle, yet again, will be upstairs inside of Break, as Dire Wolves' overall setup, even though the site has changed, is looking quite similar.
Pete Khan sitting back here on the inside of the lobby, waiting to see if he can potentially catch some of the initial entry through Passport from Team One. Not going to be able to isolate that so easily, though, as the action from Team One is not being directed to that part of the map. As you can see here, Dash kind of yellow ping to play off of. They know there's a player hiding out on the inside of Break. They're going to try to check out for that and see if they can isolate that player first. Ed, in the meanwhile, or ED, rather, sitting here just by the jail breach, seeing if there's going to be an opportunity to potentially swing out towards this and catch a member of Team One while they're not aware. But
very nice.
Only will that not work out, but meanwhile, upstairs, Dash will be caught. Souffle quickly falls back further down the hallway there after retrieving that kill. It's Dire Wolves off to another booming start here as they get down to a 5v4.
Fantastic intelligence to move back into 90 and work his way back towards site after that initial pick as well. Got rid of Dash, and now Team One worse for wear because of it. Yes, they've gotten a hold of CCTV, but it's costed them 1. They'll have to try and start connecting a few of these different soft panels around the top floor, and that'll be RHZ's job, or Rise rather. And now for Rise, past that, his reconstructive surgery on this floor has the potential to be blown sky high here by ED, who is currently underneath. Does still have that Nitro Cell in his pocket, so can play a hand into this at a moment's notice. As for Dire Wolves, though, and their site setup, not too much going on here, just trying to make sure that things are shut down on the main entry points, as Team One will finally hop 2 with Maya moving in for Fountain.
Just patiently waiting this out, trying to see if the members of Dire Wolves are going to end up making a mistake. I do like the kind of adjustment I think we've seen from Dire Wolves over the past few days. They were playing fairly aggressively at the start of this tournament here, even in that initial match versus Team Up. They seem to have cooled that off a lot. It was a large reason why they were losing these initial fights, but not this time, as Maya rushes in regardless, clears out the extended hold upstairs inside of Armory and Lockers, and is going to open up the possibility to start descending. But will Team One have enough time to get it done is the question, with only about 35 seconds left to make the hop-in and plant play.
Has the delay worked out? That's the real question, John. ED trying to get aggressive here on detention wall. Not working out for him initially, but luckily enough for him, doesn't take any heat at all. Harambe will go down. Jackie Wu dead as well from the top of Metal. And Dots, what is this? A triple kill with 1 magazine, and now the Twitch will get the case down. It's looking impossible for Dire Wolves to try and pull this one back, unless Pekin has something to say about it, but there's a lot of different things that are playing into this. The verticality especially, although Pekin is not hip firing, I promise you, he will indeed get that kill on Maya. Still have to worry about the top hold, though. In this 1v3, things a little bit too hard at the current moment, has case control, technically speaking, but Team 1 with way too much Overwatch. Lagonis will lock it down, and Team 1 fire back.
And you said at the end of the round, just far too much Overwatch allowed to be established from Team 1, and too one-dimensional of an attempt from the Direwolves to fend off the plant or retake towards the end of the round, especially after they lose their upstairs armory lockers control, only really having the server room to try to push back in from, and that's exactly what Team 1 was set up to stop. So they make mincemeat of that Direwolves defense, as you saw with that triple kill coming out there, and are able to exchange out the round to tie us up at 1-1.
Well, now Direwolves have to kind of rethink what their overall strategy is. They got gifted exactly what they wanted early game, able to take out Dash as he moves into CCTV and loses his life, as well as getting their operator out of the line of fire quite quickly in that area, not having to deal with Team 1 inside of the early game any longer. It came to the late round where Team 1 just punished Direwolves. It was a failed rotation from them at the bottom of Metal that just gave body after body after body to Dots for seemingly no reason at all. There's a lot of different ways that they could have made their way back to site, but it seemed like they were really on trying to force their way into the main space around that area, get in towards vents and try and prevent that plant, but you have to be aware of what could potentially be at the top of that stairwell, especially after you already lost your player that was holding down that top floor.
So the round now getting started. Team 1 will look to try and breach through the Direwolves defense yet again, and obviously set up in a different part of the map. They've taken a little bit more of a risk here, extending themselves over into customs for this hold. You see some angles being opened up for Jackie Wu and anyone else who's going to be holding on the inside of CCTV upstairs there. As he rotates away from that one. So extends a bit more correctly as we see the angles a bit better now over into the office side too. But still, the drones rolling in for Team 1. They'll begin the process of clearing things out, investigating over here towards Tellers first to see if they can get passport control, and more importantly, make sure they're not going to have flanks staring them down the back if they try to take this from passport side.
Get the tension wall broken down here. Also, I believe Bravo stream is popping off right now as well. So make sure you guys got the squad stream up and you're able to watch both of these broadcasts, because I'm going to tell you, Team 1 and Direwolves are more than likely going to be having some fun here in a couple of moments as well. They can have a hot ping on somebody. Don't see those every so often anymore, do we? Everyone's using yellow pings nowadays. And Souffle off the top rope. Love it when we get to make that call. Dots will go down, and Direwolves, they're fighting back.
Jackie Wu able to pick up one for himself, but Souffle soon to fall afterwards as Dash continues to exercise more and more control with him taking server. Problem for him is going to be the incredibly low HP, but another kill is still going to be found regardless, as he's able to knock down Harambe. The Fink is dead, so don't expect any adrenal surge to bring him up further. Whatever he frags out here is all he's going to be able to get. Jackie Wu and ED are all that is left. One player, Jackie Wu, hops himself down through the CCTV hatch, has a lineup into the closet, but is unable to make the connection, and now will have to contend against Dash on the other side, but he seems to be aware of it. ED, in the meanwhile, also making progress and pushing back down through Metal. He catches Rise, trying to move out through the closet window here. Dash will also be smited as he looks the wrong way when the fight is thrust upon him. That leaves Lagonis alone in the 1v2. He's going to try to rotate over here towards main door, see if he can make a play from there. That's where the ping was for ED just a few seconds ago, but Jackie Wu now on the counter defuse. The angle is not set up to allow this to happen. He's going to have to hop in, go through the laser gate, eat some HP, but it takes far too long, and the Direwolves just eat up a counter defuse as they exchange the round again for a personal second.
It seems as though Team 1 believes that they can win out that engagement just by simply getting the objective down, but obviously not the case. Direwolves this time around are the ones in the clutch and able to get it done here. Even though Dash had an amazing round, I mean, so many kills coming his way, eventually gets pre-fired, but Direwolves able to pull one out from under them, and now they have reached their maximum round count from the previous engagement they had on border with Direwolves, or rather with Team 1.
Yeah, so already a massive improvement here. Seems like Direwolves again wanting to go back to the drawing board for things. Definitely taking a very close look at their matchup versus Team 1 from the first day of groups, and now going to be trying to see what they can potentially leverage towards here inside of the first few minutes of play.
Well, it is indeed do or die today for Direwolves, so more than likely spent a few extra hours last night burning the candle at both sticks, trying to make sure that they can try and take it to Team 1 here today. Nothing's guaranteed when it comes to competition, but Direwolves are doing their damnedest. 2-1 at the current moment, as we've been saying, and obviously that last round showing the potential of what this match could be if we continue to go on this teeter-totter.
So as we continue to wait down the rest of that timer, we'll get the spawns locked in for Team 1. Inokami is back in play for Rise this time to try and get some better intel going about where Direwolves may be lurking around here. They've had a much better job of actually catching the members of Team 1 with their bit more restrained roaming presence here, as well as a variance inside of where they're playing it out too. Not only that, Jackie Wu finding a much better performance inside of this match compared to the last one. Same can be said for ED too. The team much more comfortable today. Seems like might have just been those land jitters getting themselves warmed up from the previous days. Now finally seeing them come into full form on our third and final day of groups.
Well, it has the potential, but with Maya, first strike here, this round's already not building up for a Direwolves win, and Dot's adding to the flames. Pekin, though, will finally fire back as he takes control of Passport. Has the cutoff, but the plant starting to go down for Lagonas. He'll impact back into Teller Souffle with the Overwatch as well, but nobody has any eyes on this Habana, and the plant will go down. It's a 4v3 post plant as Pekin will throw his body into the bathroom and die. Harambe will as well. Souffle with one more, but he needs 3 in order to close out the round. He won't be able to get the damage done to Maya. The LMG's too strong. It'll knock him down a peg, and Team 1 will tie things up.
And the execute is just far too quick from Team 1. Their Direwolves not able to keep up with the pacing, losing far too much ground far too quickly. Probably not even fully aware of the situation when it is thrown against them, especially with that plant going down so fast and so early on into the round. Direwolves do drop it. However, already with 2 sites locked down, they'll start to unlock their previously won ones and head back upstairs into Armory and Lockers, where they'll look to retake control of this lead, potentially only for that one additional round here, but still, a 3-3 scoreline will be workable here on Border as they switch over to the attacking side come 2 rounds from now.
Yes, indeed. I mean, you can just see the way that Team 1 are able to grasp a hold of these rounds from this offensive side, and, you know, that's been the difficulty of Border time and time again for a lot of these defensive units. So Direwolves more than likely anticipating getting onto the offense eventually, but they've definitely got to be happy with the 2 rounds that they've been capable of getting at the current moment as well. And as you said, if they're able to push it even further and get to that 3, I mean, you got to be happy as a clam at that moment. You know, you're walking into the offense head held high and hopefully with a dub in your future. Oh, RHZ, or rather Rise. The guy's name always throws me off just a little bit. But either way, Rise here, he's going to be switching things up off of the Buck and over to the Glass, and also past that. That's not it. We have so many fun ops here. Okay, past Finka, let's not talk about that thing, okay? Rather, what we have with Amaru, Osa, as well as the Knock. I mean, there is so many different ways that Team 1 can enact themselves upon the map at the current moment, whether they want to go quickly, silently, through smokes. I mean, so many different facets available.
I'm going to work on droning things up here, seeing if possibility will be opened up to use the Gara hook at a later point in the round. Maybe a bit.
I think we're going for a Vents plant, my friend.
It's looking like it here, too. Rise going to try and set up a counter angle from the back of this AC unit to fire towards the inside of Lockers here, too, and establish a bit of a cutoff for the rest of the team. Still going to need to work their way in, and there's quite a few wrinkles to get past this time. As you guys have already noted, the mirror window sitting on the primary window, and aside from that, another one blocking off access from the office side too. So there will be players in the way, but if they still work their way back in through the direct archives door, they will be able to bypass the large majority of that utility.
Yeah, Team 1's strategy now is having Dash sneak in over on a different end, having Rise hold down this window. Lagonas as well as Dash will try and push forward here, and then they're going to have Maya try and Gara hook in through the window, or just play the window upside down and repel. That's really all you need. You just need somebody for the cutoff there over in Sandwich. That angle's a little bit harsher nowadays because there's an actual locker, so it's going to make things a little bit harder, but you can already see the aggression out after they've already picked up Pekin. And now Dots with control over Fountain. Dash is going to work his way in the back door, and I mean, this is no longer Direwolves' sight. This is all Team 1's, and there's really no capability to try and prevent this from happening, although apparently Jackie Wu has something to say about this. He'll throw himself into sight claim 2, but immediately die, and now it's down to ED.
Team 1 choosing to not give any respect to the off-site presence, same as the last round, pretty much brute force their way into the site. A little dodgy there as we see players like Jackie Wu trying to rebound back in and nearly changing the status quo, but thankfully for the Team 1 fans, things do stay under their control, and they're able to wrangle out those trades and pick up that final kill you just saw there as well to give them their 3rd round first, meaning that they have the potential to take the lead here at 4-2 with one final round of play coming up now.
Absolutely. What a strategy from Team 1 there as well. Didn't even have to go for the plant. Just got so many kills on the back end because of how much of the aggro they pulled over towards Archives. Team 1 allowed to slip through the cracks, especially with Nook's sake, as she just walks through box door. Really nothing else to it at that point, and shooting everybody in the back of the head. So Direwolves end up losing out that round, had to try and reclaim, but not capable in the current moment. But now Direwolves have the opportunity to try and tie things up here on their defensive end, and Henderson a 3-3 scoreline. They're going to bring it down to Teller's bathroom with the Oryx yet again here. Very similar to what we saw the last time, as he'll work his way up east, burst through the triple wall, and get that reinforcement down the hatch.
Yep, so it is going to drop about 10 HP or so as a result of going for that. Won't be too much of a problem for him, though. Won't bring his count down too low, but otherwise just opening up those rotates for the team to play into. And aside from that, a lot more mitigation getting in the way, mainly just trying to blockading and slowing down the more fast-paced play from Team 1. Direwolves trying to do as much of that as they possibly can. They want to deny drone intel too, so the mute's obviously going to stay in play. That's just a personal favorite pick from EG if you look at his own operator history there. But the Castle, the Melusi, and the Oryx kind of roaming around here, being a constant guessing game for Team 1 to figure out where Soufflé is going to be playing from. This is all hope from Direwolves that Team 1 will not have the confidence to go for those direct site plays they were doing on the previous 2 rounds due to the operator picks that Direwolves currently have.
Indeed, and now one breaking up border yet again here. Everything put back together in between round 5 and 6. Always got to think the construction workers have to put these walls back up and replaster everything, you know. But past that, we're going to have some X-Kairos onto detention wall here. Some presence from Direwolves, but Pekin's quickly going to back off towards Metal. Nice little trot over here and trying to stave off elimination. Probably a smarter idea than initially taking this front, as Team 1 has way too many bodies around the area, but he's also been droned out. Going to try and get that with the impact, and I believe he is indeed successful, and yes, he will be, as Rise has lost 1.
Pecan looking for this first entry attempt from Team 1, and he may very well find it relatively soon here. We can see Dash, as well as lost the charge on his Twitch drone. Thinks picking it up is going to be able to work out, and we'll be able to get him back in the game a bit there. As to snipe out that mute jammer and carry it forward here, taking down more and more of the utility as Direwolves get pushed further and further back closer to the site. The Gemini working its way through the server room will find out that there's not much presence here from the Direwolves side of things. They will have free reign to move through that. And so become problematic for the Direwolves players holding in the back line of those bathrooms there. They don't have that wall fully reinforced, so Team 1 will have a firing line onto the 1 if not 2 players currently holding on the inside of it for the Direwolves. But the good news is, again, the upstairs presence is still here. There should be some pretty lethal top-downs established against Team 1 if they try to go directly for the site play, as they've been doing for the previous 2 rounds.
Well, this is looking like it's going to be brutal from Team 1. Are Direwolves ready for it? They have every avenue cut off. That's why Rise is sitting here. He's waiting for somebody to try and move to mini-hatch and drop in behind the unit. But it doesn't seem like they're going to get that just yet here. Dash holding things down for jungle at the current moment. Doesn't have too much to worry about as of right now. Pekin's going to have a nice swing, but just too much damage out of these members. Not only out of Rise, but also a following member gunning him down. Dash will get one. Harambe finally battles back, taking down Maya, but this is starting to look like it's all for naught from Direwolves. It's going to be Team 1 trying to work their way upstairs as well. This could completely catch Harambe off guard. Very well timed from Team 1, but also well timed from Jackie Wu in the swing as he'll take down Dash. Rise will take down Soufflé as well. Oh. Jackie Wu, what a shot towards the top of square. He'll make it a 2 versus 2. Rise on low HP. Rise dead as well. As where was the top player from 1? They sent somebody upside the outside stairwell, but nothing happens with it. They have the case now, but now Lagonis inside of this 1v2 with only 10 seconds remaining. He's got a plant. Jackie will get there in time though. Looks like they're going to have to try and rotate other ways, and now Lagonis, he secured it. It's a 1 versus 2, as well as they're disjointed. Direwolves have got to play this out together. Oh, the immediate shot onto Harambe. Lagonis, can you give him the 4th round? You can! Team 1 get it done off the back of Lagonis' efforts.
The original member of Team 1 forming up this new squad can still clutch it out here. Beautifully done by him, and an unfortunate informational misplay from the Direwolves, trying to retake in the midst of the plant, seemingly assuming that it was going down inside of Tellers instead of Bathroom. The player on top, I think, losing the plot for the position of Lagonis, costing them that very, very opportune moment to take him down outright, and more importantly, leaving a window open for him to rotate back into construction and take down both of the remaining members on the attacking side, or on the defensive side there. Beautifully done by Team 1, and it locks in their lead at 4-2 now as the teams switch sides.
Very unfortunate circumstances there for Direwolves. Just required a little bit more team play. The synergy just not there. Both of the Direwolves players occupying their own portions of the map as well as their own angles. And obviously, as we all know, they're only within like 15 yards of each other. But that's the thing about Siege. If you're not standing on top of each other practically, you're really not playing your trades right. So very unfortunate circumstances there for Direwolves as they simply lose the plot, don't have the timing down, and well, Lagonis will get it over on them. So now Direwolves, they've gotten their 2 rounds, but Team 1 rattle off 4 on their offense onto the defensive end now, as they will select Armory Lockers for their very first defense.
Quite a few operators going to get remixed here on the Direwolves side, too. You can see those repicks coming in quite hefty, I think, for everybody except for like 1 or 2 players who's locked in their original picks regardless. So we end up with an Ace, Osa, Sledge, as well as a Finka and Zofia. Pretty straightforward lineup, actually, at the end of the day. Here's no huge surprises, save for the Osa, but considering the amount of play we've seen out of her, well, she will certainly be needed here, and it's a good thing that she had her shield out, as Dash really smites that utility before it can even properly be utilized here at the south main window. You can already see that going down here as they try to creep up onto, actually, I'll correct myself, it looks like it's going to be heading towards east main instead here, so Dash is going to throw out all 3 pests to block out this position. Nitro prepared too. Man, Jackie Wu just cannot get away from this harassment coming in from Dash, and unfortunately, he'll ultimately fall victim to it. Dash, oh man, I don't know how he's still alive from that one.
The Matrix
hits across. The members of Direwolves just don't expect him to be out in the open, so he'll test it. He'll go for a second peek there, and once again, we'll just be able to get away from it.
It's dashing season, I think, my friend, because this is something ludicrous at the moment.
There's no
Dash
way.
is going back for more.
There's no way.
Oh, he's going to creep into it, John. I swear he's going to get this. The 1.5, but it's the move from the outside instead. Harambe, the first one to pull the trigger. Oh, and that's just how perspective works sometimes. The AK-12 will gun down yet another. Dash has been down. Direwolves have lost 2, so this is really just the equalizer. Constant cannon fodder between them. Maya tries to dash across for his teammate, but nothing to come from it. Harambe with a triple kill. Can his teammates try and assist with his sight take?
Harambe lone wolfing his way through this entire round right now, capitalizing on the over-aggression, the overconfidence, you could say, from Team 1 here. Starting out with the push from Dash, but Dots and Maya also trying to support their down teammates, ultimately costing them more and more player count. But it only serves to give Direwolves, now a +2 player advantage with another kill being picked up by ED. Rise not even going to get a chance to respond as he creeps through the beepers, but creeps right into the crosshair of one of the waiting members of the Direwolves here, shut down their first attacking round and come right back into this game, only 1 round behind Team 1's scoreline.
Direwolves hot to trot on the offensive side, and especially off the back of Team 1 with their explosive opener, and I mean explosive opener. Double nitro cell out towards the east side there, trying to throw it out towards the balcony, and they're going to claim the life of the Osa, but past that, Direwolves, and specifically Harambe, with a round to remember.
Nicely done from Harambe, keeping the Direwolves.
What a name for that
fight.
as well, right?
Yeah.
Like, oh man, so fantastic.
Keeping the Direwolves in play for this game, but keeping them in play for this tournament. A big heroic round from Harambe there. And we need to see if we can carry that forward, and someone else from this team is going to be able to step up. Like I said, this is already a massive improvement for the Direwolves in terms of what we were getting from the day 1 matchup here, where they played on the very same map at the same time as well. They kind of needed to bring that to the table, as we talked about in the pregame. It's do or die for the Direwolves, and Team 1 know what's at stake for this matchup too, so they're not going to be slouches about this one necessarily either. They have to play this oh so carefully to make sure that they can lock in their playoff position. And we'll see if they can negotiate themselves those 3 additional rounds, attempting it here on Tellers. Of course, an operator lineup suitable to try and slow down the more direct play from the Direwolves. Castle most notably going to necessitate soft breach to try and push past those barricades and away from that bit more delay capability coming in there, as well as good informational play from Lagonis too, as he's going to add the pulse into this lap.
Pretty cool thing about those castle barricades as well, just to let you guys know, it's not exactly too competitive in like the history of what's happening with those castle barricades, but something that actually the competitive community asked for. Quite a few coaches and people talking to Ubisoft and saying, hey, maybe having a couple doors in that hallway would be pretty cool, and we've seen quite a few teams at this LAN already utilizing that. We've seen it just a touch inside of NA, but definitely something that is pretty cool to call back on. Some other stuff that we've seen in history, like top floor with some of the different latticing that's on the top of the ceiling signaling that you can throw nitro cells through and stuff like that. They added a couple more spots because of what some of the teams had to say. So pretty interesting stuff. It's always cool to see what Ubi does with their reworks, and definitely some pretty cool things here for Border. But now a minute in here as Direwolves are looking to go a little direct initially, but now thinking past that, looks like they want to try and attempt a top clear.
Jackie Wu once again being put into position here to get some initial intel to entry in. ED somewhat the same here, as he'll be supported by a drone that you can see rolling by. All clear has been called out by the player on rappel outside there. You can see him with his phone out. We'll have to discover the second player inside of Archives in a moment, and I believe the call's just been made. Rise still not going to be able to do much about it, unfortunately. I think just chucks out one of his toxic babes. There's already used 2 of them, in fact. Dash trying to see if he can get lucky and catch a potential peek from ED through that newly broken hatch inside of Small 2, but no dice upon that. He has gone probably trying to contest against this hold inside of Office, I would imagine, and that looks like it's going to be the case. We get a few players leaning into that. They're not the only ones. Team 1, I think, with 3 players holding into this, but their last toxic babe now going out, so they will lose their delay capability with Rise's last piece of utility now being spent.
But he's delayed so much time already. Now, more than likely looking for the gunfights if he could potentially muster them. But Harambe, as you said, the timing working out beautiful there for him. He'll take down Rise. And now with this last minute, Direwolves have top control. But what can Team 1 do from this downward position?
Fast-paced game coming in here right now. Team 1 having to adjust so quickly, and they're going to try to do so proactively as well. You see them rotating around right now, trying to kind of get ahead of what's more than likely going to be this drop from Direwolves into the bathrooms or tellers here. They want to fend it off from the vent side or from the construction side too, so trying to get players in the way of that. ED seems to be somewhat aware of this possibility, so he's watching out for it and has already been able to catch Lagonis down through the floor. He'll be down, won't be finished off just yet, but still opens up the safe plant opportunity they needed, and Jackie will just finish him off with a nade toss. In comes those wraps, in comes those flanks, but the Overwatch is there. ED from up on top, Pecan from the side out the window. Dots will be able to take down the planner, but it's far too late as we've seen it already go down onto the ground as about 5 to 10 seconds to go, leaving just Dots here for the retake. Now attempts to get ED, but ED gets a third from up on top instead, and it's the Direwolves to hold on as they tie the game up yet again.
Well, Team 1 able to hold on to top floor for an extended period of time, but it really didn't matter as Rise rotates back in, gets gunned down by Harambe hopping the radio window, and his teammate had already dropped down the hatch, so he can't even go for the refrag at that point unless he wants to grow wings and fly. So Direwolves able to finally secure it after they get full top control, abuse the verticality of the sledge, get the plant down, and the Overwatch in the post plant masterfully done. No way that Team 1 gets back into the side as they're boxed out.
Attackers need to locate and defuse.
Let's see now if the Direwolves can carry this tie forward into a potential lead for themselves here. So much at stake for this team. Their first international showings as well, so truly looking to prove themselves. The group exit inside of their first one, or rather I should say a playoffs entrance is probably the more appropriate way to phrase that. A lot more repicks going to be coming in for the Direwolves again on this round. The Gara Hook will be deployed by ED. Lion coming in for Souffle. The thing could just swap to a different person as Jackie Wu will take that, and once again the Osa going to be added for Harambe, so similar to some of the lineups we were seeing from Team 1 in the previous half here as well. Meanwhile, Team 1 is bracing themselves for a bit of a faster play. They want to have some resistance in the form of Insight utility, and that's what hopefully Lagonis will be able to provide, as well as Dash giving them some of those more off-site angles to play from if Direwolves get too much control. With that as well, we do have a Warden coming in for Rise, actually fend off against any smoke or flash play. Not too much of that built up on the side of Direwolves, but at the same time, we do have at least 2 packs of flashes, so could find some use out of that after all.
Yes, indeed. Definitely don't have the Costco amount, but at least have some here. Yeah. So we'll have to see what they can potentially get done with that. We will have the OSA starting to work the bottom end of the map. And this is what we were talking about previously when we saw the lineup with Team 1 having Maru in. It's the Gara Hook as well, as he just simply doesn't look for half wall. Rise is going to be able to get 1, make it 2 with the Nitro Cell. That's a case down. He's more than likely going to have his teammates with him shortly enough. And that's going to be the kill from Maya. And, well, John, that's more than likely the round right there, unless Harambe can get way more done than he just did with that kill.
Yeah, a bit of a teeter-totter round here between the last one and this one, as Direwolves misstep on their execute there. Their bad intel, or just misplaying their entry there, assuming that they would have been closer to the main wall. Instead, as you mentioned, half wall, which that player holds out. And Due to that missed entry, things continue to fall apart from there. Direwolves double, if not triple down on their play. They're already down 3 players as a result of that. Harambe now noticing this mirror window over inside of CCTV. I don't even think it's manned currently, but still, he's not going to take a risk on that. They don't really have the capability to drone these things out anymore since they're working with a 2v4. He needs to find a way to group with his teammate, and that's what the current objective is. The Souffle is holding outside of that CCTV window.
Just waiting to see if they can potentially get something here. Some drones inside of the area, so more than likely have some info inside of CCTV that he was worried about and could have used that window. Just a quick punch and a shot to take somebody out. But obviously not going to happen as Team 1 does not have any member around CCTV at the current moment. Rise will still be in behind half wall. He hasn't moved an inch, the exact same spot that he got the rest of his kills, as well as still having the one Team 1 member waiting in the wings. They do have Yokai here as well. You can, or rather, Echo with his Yokai that you can currently see on the wall. Some flashes in, but Rise was built for that. Let's see if he can potentially get some more frags here as Direwolves are slow to pull the trigger here in the last minute.
RNC continuing to maintain, or Rise rather continuing to maintain his half-wall positioning. As we do see the first member of Direwolves work their way in. It's going to be Souffle trying to make the play, but it's all too easy for Rise to just use his teammate as bait there. Maya taking a little bit of the aggression while having the relative safety of the chassis to hide behind. That prompts the swing out. Our player at the half-wall and shuts down the first of 2 players from Direwolves trying to clutch this one out. Everything now falls to Harambe in a 1v4, and unfortunately, doesn't really have much of a right to initiate here, so more than likely will go down the second he swings the wrong way. We have to get to that point first. Harambe still trying his best to line up for something, and he will catch a kill against Lagonis, but over by the fountain, Maya is ready for it, and will be able to shut this down.
Yes, indeed, and I mean, pretty explosive play there from Direwolves, but really nothing getting done there. It was a misread as to the positioning of Team 1, having nothing to really influence what was happening, and to be honest, rewatching the clip, it really doesn't make any sense as to why we have our Amaru simply spraying at the box wall towards his teammates. He's not even looking towards any part of the actual area in which any of the Team 1 members would really be. You're not going to have somebody up and on top of the box wall. In a traditional sense, a lot of people like to play farther back. I mean, we don't even bandit trick that thing nowadays. So a little unfortunate there for Direwolves, but past that, it hasn't too far gone yet. They're only a round down as they've been able to tie it up time and time again, and hopefully round 10 will assist them in following suit.
So let us see if the Direwolves can once again rebound, find that further improvement. As just like previous rounds, they've been making pretty heavy use of attacker repicks so far, and this round's going to be no exception. So far, 2 repicks, or rather technically 1 repick locked in. Souffle will just go back to his previously selected operator here. Thatcher is going to be brought in for Jackie Wu. However, they don't feel that the aggression from the Yana and the intel she brings is necessarily going to be worth it or needed. And potentially more importantly, spotting out the fact that Maya has brought a bandit into play, possibly prompting the usage of Thatcher a little bit more here if they're going to be wanting to get access to some of these trickier to play into walls. But that's going to be clearing out this upstairs hold here. I don't believe that we've seen that electrified just yet or somewhere else on the map. There we go. There's one of them in jail.
We found it. We've discovered where they are downstairs inside of detentions. Putting things down for a time. Bandit, always a pretty fun op to pick up. MP7 as well as a nitro cell. Those batteries to try and lock things down. The Selma charge initially to be able to get detention open. Some pre-fire here from Harambe as well, but it's actually going to be Lagonis to strike first. As I do believe Ella, yes indeed, the Scorpion out to play, which we don't get to see too often anymore either.
Jackie Wu being smited by that very operator too. Thatcher being lost. The good news is I think done most of the heavy lifting that would have needed to be done here, as I don't think we have any bandit batteries on the upstairs walls either. And more importantly, I don't even know if Direwolves are necessarily going to want to clear that out. Seems like they are starting to shift in a position to do so now, however, so that is going to change up over the next few moments with both Souffle and ED starting to work themselves in that direction. Souffle, don't believe he saw the back of that player there peeking out. However, still going to be a little worried of it. I think they're actually spotting out a whole different player though, closer to East Main. That's where the pings are coming in for. Over towards the catwalk is where they're expecting that play to swing out from. The dots, regardless, is going to be baited into a fight. They knew there was a second one because of the previous spot, but they are not necessarily able to win it. It's actually a very awkward exchange. Another member of Direwolves going down, Souffle specifically, but Dash was also refragged only into a down state, however, and he's been able to crawl away. You can see a teammate coming over now to try and get him back up, but I don't think he has the time to do it, and I think he actually just accidentally dropped through the hatch a bit prematurely there. Had to leave his teammate for dead, so that'll confirm the death of Dash now.
Super unfortunate there as he drops down the hatch inside of Archives. This is going to allow Harambe to take control of the office area, start getting rid of this hatch, as well as ED starting to work the verticality over inside of Armory. Obviously, this is going to be event, so A lot of this verticality will assist them in making it very difficult for Team 1 to try and stave off this plan. But in a 3 versus 3, they're still going to be allowed to throw bodies really wherever they please. And Lagonos will move in towards mini with a lot of explosives going off and everything else. This is more than likely going to be difficult for Direwolves to hear. But ED makes a move at the proper time. And nade down could potentially kill Rise as well, but it's uncooked. Now, Direwolves got to get cooking instead. Where is this plant going to find its home? Harambe sticking it, peeking on the Overwatch, but now Team 1 have to try and battle back. The smoke dead. Maya, the only one remaining, but he's all the way over in Customs. He's bodied by Pekin, and Direwolves do it yet again. Round 10 theirs, and the tie-in rounds.
We're back on the teeter-totter, folks. Neither team able to lock down consistency on a round-to-round basis here, so it's looking like we may very well go the full distance between these teams. It's up to the one that can make up the difference here and win that out consecutively to truly win this game. And at the moment, it's just neither team going for that. Gonna go into a quick technical here, guys, so bear with us while we fix that issue relatively quickly and get ourselves back into the game. Aside from that, though, look like we will be going to another Vents hole. That is currently what is locked in from Team 1, but could still change between now and, of course, when the play begins.
Yes, okay, so it was a tactical.
Oh, it's a tactical.
Yeah, I thought it was. No, you're fine, you're fine.
They type technical in games.
Yeah, it's a tactical timeout here for Team 1. They got some things to discuss, and I think this is a perfect time to do it as well. This teeter-totter's just been going on for way too long. Get your coach's influence, see what you can potentially do going into these later rounds. Because it's do or die as of right now, John. It's either you get 2 rounds or you're going to overtime.
Pretty much the case. So wanting to take a chance on that, wanting to make sure that they can assuredly lock things in for themselves here. Making sure that they pick up the majority of points from this game. Not going to leave a window open for the Direwolves to potentially overtake them in their next game. And this is it, Team 1. This is their final match of the groups here, so we'll not have a chance to course correct later on. Whatever score they have after this match is going to be their final locked-in score. Whereas the Direwolves still have that one additional game coming up versus Oxygen, who, by the way, have already locked in their playoff spot, so they really have no contention to play, especially, like, special inside of that matchup.
You know Newers wants to be the best player at this
They're going to frag,
for
but
sure.
the thing is, like, they're not going to show anything, is the point I'm making. They're not going to do anything fancy. They're going to play it very default because there's not a huge advantage to be gained by winning that match.
You right. And when you're right, you're right. Intact, though, will indeed be the head coach here for Team 1. Joined in March on the 24th, so hasn't been with them for too long, but has been here for a little stint, so hopefully has some good influence over the team members here of Team 1 and could potentially assist them in bagging these next 2 rounds.
So let us see here who will take the lead away. Is it going to be Direwolves, who have been chasing it for pretty much this entire game? Or does Team 1 continue to lead the seesaw between these 2 teams? They're getting themselves onto match point first and with the capability to shut it down. 7-5. Only that one opportunity will be given to them, though, if they win it. So going to be very tense, and the same, obviously, will befall the Direwolves should they take this round. Castle Barricade is in to reinforce things over towards CCTV, going to give that player a little bit more room to play with, as he will be pretty much off on an island, unfortunately, for the large majority of this round. No real capability to assist. It's more a secondary extension for these guys. The primary one, as you can see, a lot of the reinforcements and that deployable shield going down is going to be focused on the archive side. So obviously, we're on a teller's site.
Dash is going to hop up through the hatch for CCTV here after he busts it open with the bailiff. Souffle will have a pretty nice drone here for Customs. Hood Classic, but I do say so myself. Always getting them up on top of these little windows as well as the ventilation shafts that are around this bottom floor. Always some pretty cheeky spots you can get them. Souffle's actually worked his way in through Passport via an impact. Jackie Wu starting to take some damage as well, but you could say the same thing about Dash, as he's actually taking some damage up top. Some pre-fires through, but could more than likely die here. Starting to get pretty scary for him, although more than likely unbeknownst to him at the end of the day. Souffle could have a kill here, and he will indeed. Dash seemingly unaware of the situation as Souffle had worked his way in previously via Passport like we had talked about, but no audio cues apparently going the way of the defense that convinced them of his location.
As we continue to see pressure boil down here, unfortunately, Dash, like we said, was kind of off on an island, no real capability to survive on his own, just do or die positioning for him. So a bit of a risk, in all honesty, taken there by Team 1 to even deploy towards that. They were hoping the extra movement from Oryx here would have helped them out, but certainly not the case here. So he goes down, only Jackie Wu's HP being diminished by about half from that. Very slow build-up now for the Direwolves, however, after picking up that kill. There's a bit more cleaning up to do. Edie, I think, spotting the player on the inside of the bathroom there, but not able to really track down their location, so no damage going to be connected just as of yet, but certainly establishing Overwatch for the foreseeable future. I'm going to try to find them out again now as he self-drones into it.
Slow and steady for Direwolves. Measure twice, cut once, but Maya will cut down AD instead. My disc out now. To hold down this top floor, at least for East. Direwolves still have quite a few bodies around the map at a multitude of different spots. Looks like we want Harambe here. We're towards Tellers. Could have a Tellers plant here soon. Direwolves, though, they have to crunch on this site inevitably. If they don't, then there's no way that this plant actually goes down in Pekin. Are you about to do what I think you're about to do? Oh, nade. This is a nade lineup. Yeah. This is not something you necessarily see out of Siege too often, but we're going to have it happen. Not going to be able to bag anything, though, as Rise is actually the one to strike instead.
Direwolves really struggling at the moment with this transition down on the first floor after they took upstairs control, but it seems they may finally be making some traction. Harambe able to go for at least an attempted case plant here, but here comes the retake now from Team 1. Dot sneaking back into it. Upstairs presence still alive. Lagonis actually losing the plot on the planner for a second there, but thankfully he's too distracted. Harambe now dead. And as well, Pecan falls upstairs trying to clear out the rest of that resistance. So a solid hold made once again by Team 1, and this will put them only one round away from locking in their playoff spot.
Yeah, it seemed like Oryx crawled so the rest of Team 1 could run there. Fantastic for them and able to get that round. And now the tack timeout coming from Direwolves as well as Intact having some things to say for the camera as well.
It was like obviously the coach can't talk in between rounds, right? But you can still like facial expressions. He was like, that was like one of those like, see, I told you that would work. Like that was like one of those faces. Like.
Yeah, you always got to love the I told you so from the coach, right? Yeah. So past that, though, now we have Direwolves in the hot seat. Let's see what they can potentially muster here after this tactical timeout. Direwolves have been playing pretty well, if I do say so myself, so far in comparison to the last matchup that they had. But now they're going to need some very serious help. This round means the most to them at the current moment as they really need to force overtime. They are in desperation mode for points. Now the big issue right now is that now Team 1 are at technically 4 points at this event. So even if, say, they, end up losing this and then go into regulation and get a regulation dub up against Oxygen in the next one, they'll still only have 4 points. So it's very, very rough for them at the current moment, but hopefully our friend over on the squad, oDe, has something to say about this, but we'll have to just see.
Indeed, we will. And see we shall, folks, over the next 30 seconds here. We're just going to have Team 1 setting themselves up. Direwolves obviously taking that pause there as their tournament lives are now on the line here. So needing to quickly course correct themselves with only one round to truly do so. If not, I believe their fate will be sealed after this, as that would give Direwolves an additional 3 points, putting them up to 6. And still leaving Direwolves with 0 so far, meaning that they would assuredly be locked out, only having that one additional game versus Oxygen coming up next. Which, even if they win that, is only going to leave them with 3 points.
Unfortunate for Direwolves, but hopefully they're able to secure it here. I honestly think they have a pretty good chance, especially after the tack timeout, getting a time to collect themselves and hopefully have a solid game plan coming into this round. Dots, though, won't be holding things down for the balcony. The south side of the map, just making sure that no one can work their way in for break or top east just yet, but that's unless Jackie Wu has some things here. He's going to slap down the OSA shield initially. Might be putting one here on the window. Dots has a nitro cell, though, so this is going to be a pretty straightforward affair if he does do that indeed. Looking to potentially put it on the other door as well. Nitro cell rips after rip after rip just to try and get Jackie Wu to move to a different position. He's going to run back with his gun out this time. Pre-fires, deals some serious damage, but it's actually going to be Maya to go down instead.
Souffle starting things out well for the Direwolves, keeping their tournament hopes alive here now. As you said, knocking out Maya here, evening out his kill death ratio there, 9-9 as well. Nitro being prepared for the Direwolves to try and push in through South Main. That player is currently defended by that nicely positioned OSA shield. Dots going to be spotted out here as well. A beautiful start to this round. Jackie Wu really bringing the performance to bear here now inside of this round, as he knows what's at stake. No longer can afford to make any further mistakes here. And so far, is definitely not making any. 2-0 inside of this round as far as kills are concerned for the Direwolves. They're looking to carry that forward further, but this is where they slowed down. This is where they got a little scared before, was moving themselves into that final step or two before they pushed the site. So let's see if they can get over those jitters and knock down this round.
Dash with a lot of information there, and if this is properly pinged, I do believe that the main hallway behind Dash is soft, so he could potentially die on this mirror window from behind as well. And Nitro out. It's going to eat up the Osa shield from Jackie, as well as deal pretty significant amount of damage, but luckily enough, Pekin's there with the Adrenal Surge just to try and assist with that. The drones are starting to get eaten up as well, but Dash, he's feeling himself a little bit too much at the moment. He's going to go down to Jackie Wu as well and make this a 2v5. This is looking more and more like overtime.
oNe is continuing to wait this one out here. Rise working his way in, but it's just too easy to read for Soufflé as he gets the notification. One final pickup from ED, and the pause has worked wonders now for the Dire Wolves. A flawless round at the end of regulation, and they will keep their hopes alive as they push us into OT. 3 more rounds to decide it all for them, and more importantly for Team One as well. 3 more rounds to try and make sure that they will have a guaranteed chance to go through, and won't have to sit back scared to heck watching the next game that the Dire Wolves have to play.
You can say hell. It's fine. It's all right. It's, you know, I'll take the
we don't have
blame.
an approved list, so I just like play safe. You know?
Dude, I mean, you know what? That's
never
fair.
know.
That's fair.
I don't know what the broadcast rating is. You
Yeah.
never know if we're like on TV or anything sometimes. Like,
Dude, I can almost guarantee you're on a couple of TVs and some esports bars right now. That's actually pretty cool
apparently
to think
the
about.
only acceptable one is HE double hockey
sticks?
So
Yeah.
you've actually just been fined $100.
Whoa! We're gonna have to get a swear jar or something out here. I don't know. Might have to
$40,000 fine actually is what I was.
might have to
told,
join
so.
the ranks of the EUL for that one. I don't really know, but oh, apparently it's a $40,000 fine. Well, here's the thing. I'm going to have to get paid a whole heck of a lot more for this event in order to afford that, guys. My car is a little expensive, I'll be honest. But either way. Oh, also, dude, that new TV I bought, I don't want to talk about the price for that thing. Whew, my God. Either ways, we are into overtime now, past my life things and everything else. About a couple of seconds here between these two. Unfortunately enough for Team One, they do have the opportunity of the defensive end yet again here, so they'll be able to set up the house that Dire Wolves have to try and work their way into. A couple of cheeky bandit batteries around the space just to make sure some hard breach can't go down on some unorthodox walls, rather, and make it to where some of these areas that Team One want to hold on to are unplayable. A straightforward drone here from Jackie Wu, but one that is still very potent to this day, right on the outskirts of Square. There's this little lip that you can get those drones on, and they work extremely well to keep info around this space. And, well, that's what happens when you have something like that. The info matrix works out for Dire Wolves, and they'll bag first blood.
ED is going to knock Dots out of play here, taking him down. Again, that mirror from play here. Dash looking to resist it. He's got the Nitro toss out, and you can see Jackie Wu trying to sprint away from it. But the shield's still out, so he can't sprint. Dash takes him down instead there. Re-evens out the equation down to a 4v4 and resets the Dire Wolves back to the very same spot they were at the beginning of this round here. Still playing for Intel. They're still going to go according to plan. Losing the OSA, that's going to be very unfortunate too, as it's a big piece of their execute utility. Now going to have to look for new ways to get themselves into the map, as they only have that shield which was already deployed further outside the building.
Yes, indeed. And now for Dire Wolves, it's going to be a little bit harder to work their way through without Jackie Wu, but fortunately enough for them, they have been firing on all cylinders when it comes to their overall play across the board. A multitude of these Dire Wolves members having a hand in their success, so hopefully you can say the same here about this round. With 1 minute and 30 seconds remaining, Pekin, I believe that he potentially has it here. A nitro cell, or rather a nade out, and it looked like he had a pretty cheeky lineup there for himself as he aimed towards the ceiling, but simply was not enough arc in order to get it through. Fortunately enough, not a Kobe here today. Harambe, though, will pick up yet another kill as Lagonis will go down, and now Team One, with this last minute, have to fight back yet again. But will they overextend themselves? That's the real question.
Harambe continuing to move himself forward here, waiting for the safe pastures to clear themselves so that he can make the entry towards the inside. No one presenting themselves just yet. Pecan, though, getting another opening kill gives these guys a lot more real estate to play with here. Maya responding, however, so Team One not knocked out of it yet. The Nitro out, that should deny the plant, and there it goes. A new player will have to hop in and reattempt it here with the case now down on the ground, and the numbers being evened out again, but keep in mind how low Maya is. One stray bullet will lead to his elimination here. Second plant attempt going to work its way in. No secondary Nitro to be thrown out here, so it's got to be on Peaks, putting the pressure on to ED, but it can only get one. The plant will go down, however, and Maya is just too low. Pecan clutches it out, and the Dire Wolves are one round away from keeping their own playoff hopes alive.
So very close as of right now. Team One, they're just losing too many bodies, John. They're able to finally fend off the plant, but past that, as you said, just too many weak members and a very opt angle taken up by the Dire Wolves there. Be able to shut things down as the swing with the pre-fire simply cannot find his head. They're able to get the plant through inside of Archives and the round. And they've at least stopped Team 1 at the current moment. Also, absolutely love the Direwolves players fist bumping the camera. I think that is so very cool. More than likely fist bumping the fans at home, which is always a sight to see.
So looking to make that APAC representation known here in the finals. Direwolves keeping their tournament lives rolling here as they sit just one round away now from knocking back Team 1 here and tying up their scoreline at 3-3 in the groups here. Direwolves, of course, still would need to be able to pick up at least another point out of the game versus Oxygen. That will certainly be possible for the reasons we mentioned previously. Oxygen is already secure. They don't necessarily need to play super straight, or they can play super straightforward inside of that matchup there. Still realistically stand a chance of winning it too. And ultimately though, that could open up a window, an opportunity you could say, where we end up in overtime, and Direwolves, just on that nature alone, even if they lose it, would be able to sneak that extra point in, and that could allow them to sneak through into the playoffs instead of Team 1. It is a tense scenario, to say the least right now for Team 1, considering what they're up against.
What an absolute whirlwind of a day here. And this is just the start for you and I for day 3. We've had some teams eliminated, but now seeing this story of Direwolves and their potential comeback to make it to playoffs on day 3. I mean, this is something in the making of history for Siege eSports if they have the potential to get this done. Bonus now, as well as Dots here. The EMP is out for detention wall. No one applying too much. I believe we had a Selma there that he applied earlier. Yes, indeed. And that will be able to get the wall open. Nothing else going to prevent that from getting the second layer. So that'll be opened now, and a new avenue for them to be able to attack as they're going to start breaking up the reinforcements around the custom site and seeing if they could potentially find a line of sight to peer into Direwolves and potentially get that opening frag. But you can see Team 1, they have a lot of different plans going on right now. This is the 3rd relocation on the outside of the building for this unit. This will be shifting gears over towards this end of the map. Dots also holding down top east, and they're going to take their sweet time to make sure that Direwolves cannot possibly shut this down in an 8-6 fashion.
And even if Direwolves do manage to falter here, they'll still have one opportunity on the next round to course correct and take the W inside of overtime. It's grown so tense now. Dash just waiting out to make sure there's not going to be any aggression being swung over the inside of CCTV, as well as lockers.
Oh,
Souffle as well. Not going to get noticed in this side, inside of this position. The good news, however, Team 1 still able to pick up that opening kill. They take down EDA, but now they're still going to have to contend with Souffle. The drone did not see him. Oh, he's not only going to have a chance to kill 1, but he can kill 2. They're going to walk right in. They're not going to see him. He's got such an easy opportunity, but he's got to play this patiently here.
Take your
Can't
time,
give himself
buddy.
away.
Take your
There's the
time.
first. The second will not be found, though, is RHC. He's got the skeleton key ready, thankfully, so he's able to shotgun out his opponent there. Not the intended use for that gun, but under the circumstances, it works to trade it out.
I mean, some tantalizing trigger discipline there for a split second, but fortunately Rise has it on lock with the C8 and that skeleton key. Now being able to break up a lot of this flooring inside of CCTV. Very strange that it wasn't properly droned initially, given how influential it is over this site, but either way, they've found themselves ahead in man count, but this timer starting to nip at their heels. Peeking inside of detention has Lagonis hot to trot outside. He'll go for the swing, he'll take him down as well. This is starting to get worse by the minute. Another body to fall. It's a 2v4. Direwolves, if they can stop this plant. Oh my, Harambe with a swing out passport. Jackie Wu hasn't been droned just yet, but Harambe's down. It's up to Jackie Wu to try and save them from this. A pre-fire, but Rise does it yet again. The refrag master keeps Team 1 alive.
They tie it up. Their coach is ecstatic, too. You can see him popping off in the back left there as they're able to win that one. And we are going to actually see a tech pause get called here. Tech pause was already used by Team 1, so more than likely not going to be that typo mistake again. We'll have to look into what their technical issue is very quickly here before we jump back in one more time here for our final round of play. 8-7, very much in the cards here as we quickly correct this little bit of an issue with the players on the Team 1 side, it looks like.
Absolutely, and after we get that player back in, folks, which should be momentarily, we did not have to have Team 1 fully disconnect, just the one player, and we're able to pause the timer. getting back in here momentarily. So as of right now, a 7-7 scoreline. Direwolves will be on the offense where they found quite a bit of success, but you could say the same for Team 1, although now they'll be on the defensive end. Quite a few times where they've oversold and allowed Direwolves to take rounds when it comes to these respective sides. So more than likely having a decent amount of discussion about this. We'll just have to see what they can possibly get done once we get back into game. But as of right now, it's Ventilation Workshop for their defensive side. And for Team 1, it has been a pretty aggressive front. They've been trying to work the building decently quick on offense. That last round a little bit more calculated, but even then, they still made a misstep inside of CCTV. As for Direwolves, they've been really strong, especially with their OSA play. We've been seeing Jackie Wu occupy that op quite often, especially for like top east and things along those lines, and trying to work off that side of the map with the remaining members of his squad. So we could see very similar circumstances in that regard, but honestly, the man to talk about for Direwolves, John, it's got to be Harambe.
Yeah, definitely has to be the case with Harambe bringing that fantastic play in on a round-around basis. I mean, like I said before, really everybody on Direwolves stepping up to a pretty big degree, even comparing to the previous matchup these guys played 2 days ago. Jackie Wu and ED were the ones that were kind of standing out for me in some of the APAC South matches these guys were playing in, where, once again, they had a perfect season to run themselves into this event here. The actual playoffs not necessarily being perfect, but still, the regular season working their way in. And aside from that, yeah, massive improvement for Harambe, only picking up 2 kills in the previous run, and now making a much bigger difference inside of this matchup. Same can be said for Jackie Wu as well, considering the very important, very frag-heavy position he has played into. We expected more from him in the previous game, and he's definitely delivering it here in this matchup now.
Yes, indeed. If Direwolves win this right now in this round, they have quadrupled the rounds that they got against Team 1 the previous time that they played Border. Now that is a pretty quick turnaround. A 7-2 to an 8-7 victory. I would say that Direwolves are pretty good at picking up on what their mistakes are when it comes to VOD review and things along those lines. So again, another team from one of our international regions that is just showing a lot of promise for the future. And honestly, it bodes extremely well. This is what you want to see for your esport. You know, these younger guns coming in and showing up. And honestly, you can say that about both of these teams. Team 1 has had a really, really strong land as well, especially after what happened to this roster. Quite a few of these, team members only got to really catch inside of LATAM, in between like our broadcast for the NAL. So it's been nice to actually be able to, sit down and get personal with these play styles and see how they play. It's been really, really awesome. Again, especially for Team 1 with how everything broke down with them and losing the majority of the roster, then Lagonis rebuilding this and finding some pretty strong success here at Charlotte.
It's looking like Team 1 as well. Still working on fixing that issue, guys, so bear with us here for just a moment as they work on getting that solved. It's looking like, actually, I think we are nearly good to go. I know the Direwolves are all set, but I think it's Team 1 that has the issue. There we go. We just got it ready for them in-game, so we should be good to resume play in just a second here, folks. Get us rocking and rolling and seeing if the Direwolves can top out this matchup to keep their playoffs hopes alive. Again, keep in mind, still dependent on the result that would come out of the matchup versus Oxygen, especially considering now that they're only going to get overtime points from this matchup, not the full regulation points. So we'll still have their work cut out for them after this game. For Team 1, they can only sit back and watch, however, as this is the final match they have.
Well, it's all came down to this. 14 rounds in a row has led us to a 7-7 score line. The 15th will decide which one of these teams takes the grand total of the points. Won't be able to get 3, only 2, but it matters a lot to Direwolves here as they have to play against Oxygen later today. Team 1, the only ones at the current moment standing between them and a chance to make it to the playoffs. It all starts now here, folks, in 3 seconds as Direwolves are let out of the gates.
Here they come, ladies and gentlemen, Direwolves with their last attempt to keep themselves in the tournament now, and they are going to bring a pretty straightforward lineup in order to attack. It is going to be against Events Hold 2, so shouldn't expect too many curveballs to come from the defensive side, but they do have a few interesting operator picks regardless. The Pulse back in play for Lagonis to play from downstairs and support the intel, especially with the second floor clear, as well as any maneuvers we might see from the main doorway too, depending on how closely to the closet site he is going to play. Obviously the Bandit too to block off access to areas like jail and potentially the upstairs main wall if he wants to support that extension. All 4 of the batteries are down and locked, so he has managed to electrify at least 2 sets of those walls. And away from that though, usually expected utility here between Dash, Rise, and Dots, bringing the Mute, Smoke, and of course Mira.
Yes, indeed. A lot of defensive stronghold built up for Team 1, but now the EMP is out as well as the Selma charges down. Fortunately enough, someone on Overwatch trying to hold that down to make sure the Ace can't possibly get punished, and Dots tries to go for a wild swing. He's going to lose a decent amount of his HP, but fortunately enough for him, he'll be able to skipper back towards Armory Lockers and assist Rise. It's going to be the double shotgun setup up here. Smoke, Mute along for the ride. Some of the most prominent operators inside of Rainbow Six history, the SAS Ops, as they're attempting to hold this down. Hopefully a grandstand here for them if they want this successful round to get this overtime dub. Harambe, though, does have the cross now for Mini. No one trying to oversell this time, though, for Team 1. They had that initial engagement. This has slowed up Direwolves just enough for the time. A minute and 30 seconds have already went off the clock for Direwolves, as Souffle might potentially be looking to push himself further inside of Customs. It's actually Pekin that is able to get one. What a shot from him. I believe upside down rappel all the way into Office to claim that kill.
Oh, not again! For the Direwolves, and an even better follow-up from ED, as he's now able to isolate out Dots. That's the extended game from Team 1. Pretty much gone here. Rise still maintains position inside of Office, but he really can't do much with it now is the problem. No trade support, and they're already down 2 players. It's honestly just a risk to keep that position going at this point. EMP's going to work their way forward. Be able to take out much, but possibly some utility down below on the floor to be eliminated from that. Top-down angle is going to begin to be opened up as well here by our Sledge player on the Direwolves as they move into the final stage of this round. We move into the final seconds of it too. Just 30 of them remaining here for Direwolves to successfully get themselves on the site, but they're already doing it. Harambe forcing the issue in closet.
What?
Oh no! They didn't account for Rise upstairs. He's retaking control. Pecan trades it back after they go down to a 3v3 in order to keep the advantage in their favor. But now Maya going to continue to contend against any plants here. He'll be able to swing back directly into the site. I'm not sure if they'll be aware of that. They do. They catch the rotation, but Maya can't control the spray. Pecan, he's saving the day right now with a triple, and Souffle finishes it off. The Direwolves are still in it, ladies and gentlemen, as they take control of this matchup, 8-7. And for Team 1, they have to be very, very worried for the next hour or so here, as their tournament lives, their playoff lives, are yet to be confirmed.
It's a heart stopper for the LATAM squad, as they cannot hold on to the top floor. Direwolves, they measure twice, cut once with the info came as they slice through the top end. Rise not really even able to have a hand too much into that, as he's only able to claim the life of the Sledge. But then later on, the Zofia clambering up metal stairs takes him down, and the Direwolves will win the game because of it. Fantastic border from them as they take Team 1 back to the map that they had just been 7-2'd on days before and claim it in overtime.
We're going to head to a short break, ladies and gentlemen. When we do come back, we're breaking this game down.
15 seconds left. 10 seconds remaining.
There are civilians out there who need us. They can't fight back. They can't escape. And they can't heal their own wounds. That's our job. And we're the best at it. By being careful and compassionate, we can make the world a safer place for everyone. We do this to be of service. And we can't afford to be complacent. When we go out there, we work twice as hard to protect others. Whatever we have to do, we put the people first. That will be our focus. With unwavering diligence, we defend. And we get to say that when Wolfguard is on the field, things will be different.
Welcome back once again, ladies and gentlemen. An excellent matchup just concluding there in the favor of the Direwolves. They take their first win of the tournament against Team 1. A massive changeup from the previous match they played against them too. Dropped that one 2-7 back on day 1 of our groups, and this time they're able to take it 8-7 in their favor on the very same map. Take a look at the replays throughout the matchup here, where Team 1 unfortunately faltering here due to the much increased individual prowess, as well as a much better strategical game coming in from Direwolves. They're definitely learning their lesson from the play on day number 1.
I've never heard truer words in my entire life, John. Direwolves have a completely different look here on this version of their border. Team 1 not able to stave off long enough to force Direwolves into a position where they would no longer be able to make it to the playoffs. Instead, now Team 1 are forced to wait on the results of Direwolves versus Oxygen after this map. And Direwolves, they're looking quite strong right now. And just to remind you guys, Oxygen are already guaranteed for the for the main stage. So now this all leads up to a certain point. How much is Oxygen going to give up in order to get a win over Direwolves? It doesn't really mean too much for their future.
Absolutely the case here, and it should be important to note that for the Direwolves, I do believe, we'll probably get confirmation of this before we start our next game, ladies and gentlemen, just so you have all the information, but we'll get our stats from this match on screen. But more importantly, talking about those playoff contentions, that should leave the Direwolves with 2 points overall, which means that Team 1 is still going to be ahead, having 3, so that means that we need to see, or excuse me,
4, because they got a point from that overtime.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yes,
So
indeed.
they're going to have 4. Thank you for correcting me there. So that means we do need to see it. Actually, we'll talk about this in a minute because we are actually going to see this fully in a second, so we can break this down a lot better for you guys. Here's the stats from the game, though. We can see how much of a team effort this was from the Direwolves. In the previous matchup, Pecan had topped it out, and there was a massive fall-off from that point forward. This time, it's not the case. Every single member of this team within just a few kills of each other. Jackie was the only one that's really hanging out a little bit lower there, but even he had much increased impact in this game, so I'm not going to harp on that too much. Same can be said, really, for the members of Team 1, but just not enough at the end of the day to get them over the hump and into the first place with that 8th position. Or
yeah,
8th round.
absolutely. Rise with a very strong game, but past that, just like you said, Direwolves, it's the team play from them that's able to finally secure this dub, and it was hard fought back and forth, but here are the standings at the current moment for Group A. Again, Oxygen at the very top, that's not going to change. They have 9 points. Not a single person can hold a candle to that score inside of this group any longer. Team 1 got that 1 point from that overtime like I was discussing with you, and Direwolves now with 2. So in order for them to get one over on Team 1, it would require not only round diff for them because of the previous win from Team 1 over them, but they would, if they do end up equalizing in points, but they would have to get a regulation win over Oxygen to guarantee themselves playoffs.
So that is going to be the status quo that will be set up for our next match, ladies and gentlemen. And indeed, it is coming up right now. So get yourselves ready for it, because the Direwolves already just had a heart-stopping match, but they need to reboot those hearts and get themselves ready to go one more time into the fray against arguably an even tougher foe here, depending on the type of play we get out of them inside of this matchup. It's really up to Oxygen and how they want to play into this matchup. Could play a very default, straightforward game so as to save the more complicated strats for the playoffs here, but at the same time, they could play their hearts out here to really lock in your perfect group for themselves.
And just one more thing before we do send it to a break. I just want to talk to you guys quickly about the tiebreaker rules here, because obviously this is a format that we need to discuss with you guys so you know what's going on for the day. So just really quick, it's not head-to-head first. It is going to be round differential. So what I talked about before is indeed confirmed. You're going to have a better round diff, which they're currently at -9 to, I believe they're +1. So that will require way more than the rounds that they're more than likely going to be get in the last match with Oxygen. It's mathematically impossible. So it's regulation dub or no playoffs.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, with that said, we're going to go to a bit of a longer break here, but when we do come back, we will have that next matchup ready to go between Oxygen and the Direwolves.